All right, guys. This is Brian from Weird World War II again, and today we have an awesome guest. We've got Lee from Gaddis Gaming. Hey, Lee.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, so we brought you along because you are a Weird World War One and Two producer, and you're making some awesome products, some unique products, and you've got yourself a Kickstarter coming up that's ending soon, and you're just the gnat's wing close to getting
Here.
it done. So we wanted to showcase you to try to help you get that realized. Okay, but
Yeah.
first, before we jump into all the meat in the taters, I wanted to ask you a question. What got you into gaming, man? What got you into wargaming in general?
Early on, was um early on it was I was lucky enough that I lived in an apartment complex, and there was a guy there. I was with a group of kids, and we had just watched the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings. Remember that
Yes.
rotoscoped right one? We
Yes,
had watched
definitely.
that, and then D&D had come out, I don't know, maybe just a couple of years before that. And so there was a guy from Britain that was an exchange student that was living with one of my buddies, and he had 3 brown books, and that was the original Dungeon Master's Guide, Player
Oh,
Handbook, and Monster Manual.
yeah.
And he didn't have anybody at his level. He was like 20 years old,
Mhm.
and nobody wanted to play with him. But we were like, the 5 of us were like, hell yeah, we'll play, because we were like so into it. And so he started us playing, and then there was a hobby shop that I used to go to with my dad, and we were building World War II airplanes. You know, that was our father-son
Yep.
bonding time. We'd have a Thursday night game night, and we would build these airplanes when we weren't playing with my siblings. And so in that store, they had the Citadel miniature set where it was a dwarf, a wizard,
Yeah.
a fighter, and a cleric. Remember that set? That
I
yellow
do.
box?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The
I
part.
saw that, and so I was like, the miniatures really got me into it. And I was like, this is so cool. And so I had the test. I went and got the tester's paint. I was using the models. Forget about. I mean, it looks like I had painted those miniatures with nail polish, man. I put that paint on so thick because you had to have thinner, and I didn't
Yep.
realize thinning your paints was a thing. And so I was just globbing it on. I was
And
just
those
globbing it on.
testers
But
paints, man, you had to glob them on.
yeah, and I had that. Yeah, so it was crazy. It was really super thick. But so we started playing that and using the miniatures in the D&D game, and then from that we just, the game store was like, oh, the older guys, once they realized that we were playing D&D, they invited us to come in. I think they really used, now that I think back on it, they used our group to like play test games that they wanted to play.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we would come in because there was 5 of us. There's always like 5 or 6 of us, just snot-nosed kids looking for some trouble to get into. And so they would like explain to, if we could get the rules, and then they would introduce it to other people. And there was a lot of people that were like writing rules, or I mean, that's when rules would be like hung up on Ziploc bags in the
Yeah.
store, right? They would be photocopied,
Photocopy. Yeah.
mimeograph machines. Remember those? Smell of that paper?
Yeah.
And they would be in little bags, and you could buy the rules for like a couple of bucks, $1.50. There's your rule set. Go have fun. And if you had a copy machine, oh my God, you were God. If you had access to a
Oh
Xerox
man.
machine, woo, it was
I
on and
remember.
popping. But yeah,
Yeah.
and so being able to play with older people, and not having them like, hey kid, get out of here, you bother me, but saying, hey, come
Yeah.
over and play, And for me, I mean, I was just a couple of years out of playing, Tinker Toys, so I was like 8 or 9 years old. So for me, it was, Army Men all over again, but it was just with really super, detailed, scaled models.
You
And
got
I
to
was
play
used
with
to
your models.
building
Yeah, you got
models.
to play with your model kits.
Yeah, I had a use for my models, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just one step removed from that. And then, I would take my lunch money and then buy the pocket games. There was a Steve Jackson Ogre that came out, and that was in a Ziploc bag that fit into my Lee jeans back pocket with my tough skins, tough
Oh
tough
man.
jeans, with my Pro Kids on, and I would run down to the store, and then I played Starfire First Edition that came
Yeah.
out a couple of years later, um, and so it was all those games that came in little Ziploc bags that I could stick in my pocket and then take over a friend's house, put on the table, and play. It was all Hex Encounter stuff at the time.
Mhm.
And then with miniatures gaming, with wargaming, it was like doing like Cold War era stuff with the older guys because they had the money to spend on the miniatures, you know. But I could maybe buy a Ral Partha wizard or an elf like once a month with the money I saved up, taking out the garbage and doing my paper route.
Yeah.
And then like I said, we played D&D from the time I was like 9 till the time a girl took interest in me, and then she kind of pulled me away. And then all my money went into pizza and going to the movies and all that kind of stuff, right? And then I got back into it in college as a really cheap way to entertain myself, you know, not having a lot of money. And so when I was able to be financially stable, I decided that all the things that I denied myself, I would get back into. So for my 40th birthday, I decided I was going to buy the advanced D&D. I think it was D&D 3.5 that came out at that time. So I got back into that. I bought some miniatures, started back painting just for like therapy, just like as a meditation, you know, and then hanging out at the local comic book store. I joined a nerdy book club, and we were just discussing novels and stuff. So I bought comic books, and then I asked anybody, "Hey, you guys interested in doing any kind of D&D or role playing games, something like that?" And then, "Oh, kind of, maybe, sorta." And then one guy was like, "Hey, you know, they just opened up a game store down the street." And I immediately left the book club, went down to the game store, and like, "How long you guys been open?" "Oh, we've been open like a month." I'm like, "Oh my God." And they had like all of the paints, all the Reaper miniatures, you know, they had everything. And it was like being a kid in a candy store, man. And all over again, it just lit that fire up all over again. And then everybody was either playing D&D, they were playing Magic the Gathering, or they were playing Warhammer 40K. And I remember Warhammer 40K from when I was a kid. Yeah. And the box art just turned me off because it was like these Arnold Schwarzenegger, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, crew-cut guys fighting demons. And I'm like, I don't think this is a game for me. I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be at, right? But yeah, and then the group there was really like rigid about it. And I was like, well, I want to play something with a little bit more flexibility. What if we did this, or what if we did that? And then, you know, and people were like, I don't know, we play it this way, and you have to learn this rule and buy that codex and all that kind of stuff. And
very structured.
Yeah, it was a very structured, and I understand why they did it, but I wanted something a little bit more free flowing. And then I discovered some Led Adventures online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I discovered those guys, and I'm like, these guys are having fun.
Guys, just but Led Adventure Forum is like amazing. Go there, and every gaming fetish is there. It's all there. Any kind of gaming is there.
All your kink is there. Whatever kink you're into, it's
there. Any gaming kink, it's there. And from everything. It's fantastic.
And they discuss it. So I discovered Led Adventures, and then I was adapting some of the rule sets, and then I got into Dust, started playing Dust real heavy, and then they had their turmoil that was going on, and I was like, with Battlefront, and I was like, well, shucks, you know, what if we got together, me and some friends of mine, and she was like, you know, there's no women here. There's no way for me to fit in as a woman to play that. I'm playing all this guy stuff. And I was like, well, you know, the Soviets had a full female army. One of the best snipers is female. One of their top tank aces is female. Pilots. 177th Artillery Division, anti-aircraft division that defended Moscow was all female cadets that had just graduated the academy. And so I introduced her to all that and really learning the history of World War II and where she could fit into, like, when people were playing bolt action and stuff. And then when we were playing Dust, she was playing Sigrid von Thaler, you know, with the laser pistol and the Totenkopf units, and she liked bum rushing me with zombies. So I'm like, well, let's try this. So we tried that with some friends, and then we ran up against some really hardcore historical gamers that really kind of turned us off to it, that were like rivet counters and, you know, the cycle rate of an MG42 and
Yeah.
all that type of stuff. And we were like,
Unfortunately, that is something that's encountered in a lot of historical gaming. It's a shame. It
yeah,
really is, because this does not need to be an exclusive club. We
yeah.
need
And some
to be
people want it to be
inclusive.
a club. Yeah, and great, have your exclusive club, but we want to play with as many people as possible. The more seats at the table, the more fun we can have, the more joy we can share with other people. And that's just the approach that we had at it. And then I realized that in all of the wargaming stores that I went into, there wasn't any representation of women or people of color. And I come from a family that's 5 generations military. And I was like, I know that black people fought in World War II. I know they fought in World War I. I know they fought in every freaking combat that we've had since the founding of this country. So us not having representation, I thought, was a really big oversight. And so I said, instead of begging Warlord, who's a British company, to do it, or begging Two Fat Lardies, to do it, why don't we form our own company, and we can represent women and people of color and represent the full scope of miniatures gaming. And we formulated our rule set. I think we started in 2014, where we started the really fundamentals of the Guards rule system, because we weren't happy with the way it was. The big change that GW was doing when they switched the rules from 6th edition to 7th edition, and then they came out with Age of Sigmar, and people were burning their armies. It was just crazy shit was going on. It was crazy. And then Wizards of the Coast had got rid of their license for Star Wars, so we couldn't play the Star Wars miniatures game anymore, and the miniatures were getting harder and harder to find. The stores weren't carrying them. So we created a rule set, and then my Rottweiler, really the impetus was my Rottweiler ate the original rules that I was using, and I couldn't find replacement rules. So I just made up rules as we went along so we could still use our same miniatures. And then that evolved into the Guards rule system. And then so we started a company. We had a full range of World War II miniatures, and then we branched off into World War I because the 100th anniversary of World War I was coming up, and there had never been a game dedicated to the Harlem Hellfighters, which I thought was a travesty, considering they were the most decorated unit that fought for the U.S., that spent the most time on the front lines, and in 100 years, nobody saw fit to give them the honor of putting them in a game. So I dedicated our first game, Shattered Crown, in our Weird War world to them.
That's great.
So as you know, our world takes place after H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds in 1880, 1890, when the Martians come in, they invade, they get wiped out, but then all of the technology they left behind started being reverse engineered, and then World War I jumps off. And so that's where Shattered Crown takes place. So you have Tesla coils, you have the Germans with the death rays, you have the Turks with the battle armor, all that happens, and then a peace is reached, but then the Weimar Republic is reformed, and then the monarchy is reestablished by King William III, Prince Victoria. Louise is married to the King of Italy, and they form the Holy Roman Empire, which is a bulwark against the Soviet Union. And so that's how our World War II jumps off, and then all of the things take place. But by Hitler not being there, the war drags out longer because a lot of idiotic mistakes aren't being made. So you can play within that anywhere you want. Any weird war scenario you can play out, all plays out. So let's start off. What got you started playing Weird War? What was your intro into it?
Okay, so on my side, I was a big comic book guy. So I was a big war reader. Like I was a big. My favorite comic book was Sergeant Rock. That was my comic, and I was a big Captain America fan. And I was big into, when I got a little older, I got into the old like 50s and the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like the pulp magazines, the men mags with all the crazy stories and stuff. And I was always a war gamer. And I just wanted to implement like those crazy adventures that I would read about into my wargaming. So I'm like, shit, I'm going to put Captain America beating up a King Tiger. So I just made up my own stuff and started there. You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the comic, so you came in through another media.
Yeah, I've always been a war gamer, man. Always.
Okay.
I mean, I was playing in the 70s, in the late 70s. I was playing the old Avalon Hill stuff with my brothers, the Gettysburg box set, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, the bookshelf games and the chit games. So that was my first introduction to it all. And then
Hex and Counter.
yeah, and then I started. You started playing with little army men and doing your. We used to use Lincoln Log catapults to knock down our opponent's stuff. So that was my first war gaming. And then it just evolved. I did a stint with GW and their 40K during Rogue Trader, but I was out of that. I was out of 40K probably at second edition. So because I just realized there's so much.
Did you feel that they had in the early days? It was more like an RPG.
Yes, that's why I left, because I still play Rogue Trader today, and it doesn't have that flavor, that feel of like the role play, the more story based. I mean, it's kind of getting that way now because they have, what do they call them? They call them there's a term for it now that the 40K players use where it's like story based instead of like point battles or whatever. But it used to not be like, yeah. So, but yeah, it lost its flavor, its feel, and I just didn't want to throw down the money, man. There's a lot of money to feel.
Yeah. No, 40K isn't the name of the game. That's how much money you're going to spend by the time you're done building your army.
I mean, it's true. And then don't get me wrong. I mean, comparably, they have discounts on certain things or whatever. But I mean, overall, it's an expensive game to play. It just is.
Well, if we're honest, wargaming is a hobby for people with disposable incomes.
It's true. It's true. Right. But what's great about ours, the Weird War, and this is, I have a term called free range gaming. And what that means is you can game with whatever the hell you want, because a Tiger tank is a Tiger tank, be it whatever scale that you use, whatever time frame that you play it in, it's still a Tiger tank. So you can buy that Tiger tank from anybody you want. You don't have to buy a Land Raider because it's a Land Raider from GW. You can buy a Tiger tank from Tamiya, or you can buy it from Company B.
If you're playing in 148 scale, there's tons of choices. If you're playing 156 scale, there's tons of choices. My company being one of them.
Yeah,
and if
that's
you play,
right. Gaddis Gaming.
Yeah, and you play all the way down. And I know one guy said, I was at a convention and he was like, "Oh, I really like your stuff, but I already have World War II in 3 different scales." Because he has it in 15, he has it in 20, and I think he has it in 25 would be the next scale up.
25, yeah.
Yeah. No, he doesn't have it in 20. It was small. I think 20 was the largest.
20.
Oh, he had it in micro armor. Micro armor, 15 millimeter and 20 millimeter. So I was like, yeah, I feel the same way because I have Star Wars in like 3 different scales.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy.
So
what about you?
I like the concept of that you mentioned of free range gaming, and that was one of the reasons we came up with our guards rule set, is that we wanted people to be able to take this and then play the way that they wanted to play, because a lot of the gaming companies funnel you into a certain style of play, which to a lot of us is not intuitive, right? It's not an intuitive play style. And so let's say I wanted to play my my Weird War guys versus versus some superhero guys, right? I can do it. As the story and the narrative. So I'm really into narrative play, and I'm really into creating scenarios. And some of the funnest games that I've played have been the story-based games.
Yes.
Like,
and my biggest thing is there's no game. I mean, there's no battle that's been even. I love playing games when there's an underdog. I love it. I don't use points. We in our game in their Battleground Weird World War II, which is my homebrew, we use historical TONEs or whatever the hell we want to play with. It's not about fielding an equal army it's about fighting a game, and it's usually story based. So you might not have. I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot of these games are just massive armies, like a figure across the table. There's tanks across the table just touching each other.
Well, that's Tank Wars, right? That's Gale Force 9 had a game, Tanks.
Tanks.
Yeah, Tanks. And I've seen, at conventions, I know their they're larger than life than what you would play at home because they're conventions and they're made to be spectacles. I mean, I've seen some of the most beautiful table, some of the most gorgeous terrain, some of the most highly detailed painted miniatures at conventions, at the convention setting. And I'm a big proponent of that, because you have people who get together in clubs and they spend all year making terrain and painting the miniatures just for that one event, just for that one weekend. And so I'm a full hobby supporter. So I want you to, buy the army you want, collect the army you want, paint the army you want, or not paint it. Depends on, what skill set you have. And but the main thing is to be able to play and enjoy it. So with the Guards rule system, we said, why don't we free it from us being trained by Games Workshop or being trained by Warlord to play a certain way, and free ourselves of that Eurocentric mindset, and really allow ourselves to get on the table and play, because American culture has something very unique that we bring, right? That's not Britain. That's not a Eurocentric point of view. And I think that free-ranging, shoot from the hip type of gameplay is something that's more unique to our culture. Do you think that's where that comes from?
I think the American arrogance, the exceptionalism. Yeah. We want to play what we want to, not what you tell us to play with. So hell yeah. I think as an American, I don't want to be told that my Space Marine commander can only have a plasma gun upgrade. I want a damn stubber.
Right.
Right. Or I want my Americans to all have, bolt action, rifles instead of the carbines. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. And then I want to be able to play with what I have or what I can afford. That's the big, like you said, in your system, it sounds like it allows anybody to just play with what they got or what they can get.
Yeah, and we made a program, thanks to Greg Setter over at Easy Army Builder. He allowed us, he wrote for us an algorithm where you can go in and you can build your army using points. I mean, it's a point system. That way you can have something balanced, but you can outfit whatever you want. So when I create my infantry, I have 10 guys with rifles, but this one guy, he has a captured Martian ray gun.
There you go.
Right? And then you just point it out. And that way, when you go to play with you, I give you my army list, you give me your army list. That way I can reference what you have when we're playing, so I can understand, the nature of your army and what you're doing. But we're not telling you have to play that way. We're giving you the tools to play with. And there's miniatures from defunct companies that I would love to bring to the table, just for spice, just for flavor.
There's been so many just talented sculptors out there over the years that have produced so many great things, and just because the system is no longer supported, all that is lost. I don't understand the mentality of a lot of the gamers out there. It's just like there's just a wealth and just of product out there. Just because it doesn't, the game doesn't exist anymore, it doesn't mean you can't use it. I just don't get that. I don't understand that mindset where it has to be official and it can't be something different. Why?
Don't you think that's a lot of training, though, that comes from the game stores? Because there's so many GW game stores around, and people go there, and that's usually their first experience.
Well, I think it's a marketing ploy. I really do. Yeah. I think it's marketing, and I understand it. Look, I'm not naive to Games Workshop isn't in this business to just
make friends,
games to play. It's a business.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I just don't choose to play in that business format. I don't need all that stuff. I don't need that structure, and I don't need a Q&A. Listen, if you have a game system that has a Q&A every month, something's wrong with your game system.
Or to your point, it's a marketing strategy. It's not that the system is broken. It's that, it's a way to sell the next generation of models.
Exactly.
And for us, I mean, World War II is kind of defined historically. So we have all the miniatures for that. But then beside that, we have the alternate world using the Guard system that starts in 1880 and then goes all the way into the future. So you can mix and match, have excuses for mixing and matching any miniatures that you want from any miniatures line. We hope that you buy from us because we like to stay in business.
Yeah.
And we got to make money to be able to do that. We got to pay the artists, we got to pay the sculptors, so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, I have to admit,
at the local game stores. So I'd love for more game stores to stay open.
Yes, and that that's a big thing. It's like it's rough time for everybody right now, and it's
Yeah,
like how do you
2020 is no joke.
maximize your costs to get the maximum profit out of it.
Yeah, and
But
for us, bringing out the quality of our miniatures, going to the conventions were a big plus for us because people could see and touch firsthand. And so a lot of our business was like, oh my God, I saw your stuff at Adepticon, or I saw your stuff at Historicon, and we love your miniatures, and they go back home and then they order from us,
Yep.
online, or if we didn't have it at the store. And we have people can email us their army list, and we would custom build an army for it because we manufacture all of our own miniatures, and we would custom build an army for them, and then we would send it out to them. That's customer service that you don't get at the larger companies.
No.
So being a smaller mom and pop company, if somebody wanted a certain sculpt and needed multiple copies of that sculpt, we can cast it for them.
See, that is fantastic. That is customer service. You don't have to, I need a 12-man unit, but I don't want to go out and buy another. I've got a 10-man box set, but I don't want to go out and another 10-man box set. I just need 2 minis.
2 units that you need. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. And you offer that ability to get exactly what they want, not what you're providing them in packaging.
Right. We have the packaging for people that are new that just want. I don't want to think about it. Just give me a starter army. Well, here you go. But if some people are like, well, I want all the guys shooting in this pose. Well, great. Here's 10 guys doing that. Have fun.
That's awesome.
Again, and that goes for our company philosophy. We're not telling you how to play. We're just giving you the tools to play with. And that's so great. You let us know how you want to play, and we'll, try to meet you there. And so I think that the Weird War community has really broken that mold of saying, hey, we want to play the way we want to play. We want to add a little spice to our games, right? Yep. We're not going to be rivet counting. We don't care about the cycle rate of your MG42. We don't care whether you have brass or wooden toggles on your uniform, right? That's not our focus. Our focus is to get together, tell a story, roll some dice, have a good time, and then, walk away as friends. We're not bitter enemies because you won the game, because next week I could win the game. or just getting to some of the best games I've had have been narrative stories where I've lost. I got my butt totally kicked, but every time I rolled the dice, I had a great time. I had a laugh.
If you're not laughing at the table,
they lose that. They lose that the camaraderie, I guess I want to say. The community has.
I never was a tournament guy. The competition. Don't get me wrong. We all get competitive when we're rolling dice, and all that. But I never got into the tournament scene. So I'll be honest with you. I'm ignorant to it. But it's just not the kind of scene I want to be in. I don't need min-maxers. I don't need to break the rule system down to perfect, make a expert, army list. That's not what it's about. It's about rolling dice with my buddies or strangers, becoming friends, having a good time. It's a social aspect. It has nothing to do with winning or losing. It is about a bunch of guys or girls sitting around the table, rolling dice and having a good time. That's it. That's all it's about.
Hey, that sums up the Weird War community in a nutshell. So if you're listening to this for the first time and you're listening to 2 people who are in the Weird War community talking about what it is that draws to that. It's not just, the era, which is, one off from historical, but it's the camaraderie of bringing people to the table and having a good time without all the other baggage that comes with a lot of other gaming systems.
It's true, because, straight historicals can get really stuffy. It can, like you talked about the rivet counters, and, this didn't happen until 3 months later or whatever. And it's like, dude, this isn't a simulation. This is a game.
Yeah.
And listen, but we separate ourselves from that. So like when you come to Weird World War II, you know exactly what you're getting into. You're getting
a good time.
Weird. Yeah, you're having a great time. You're talking about Captain America punching, a King Tiger in the face.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun stuff.
One game that we had, it was Return to the Castle of Wolfenstein. So we had a castle set up on one end of the board, and we had a village that the Allied players had to move through. So when you got to the village, the village was empty, right? And the closer you got to the castle, this heavy fog started to roll in. So It started to get obscured. And then you send a patrol out, and then the patrol came up missing. and then you see the patrol slumbering back through the fog really slowly, right? And then you realize as the fog starts to clear, that they're not the soldiers that you originally sent out, right?
They got big holes in them.
Yeah, and then every time you roll, more of these types of soldiers start. So all the zombies start coming out,
Yep.
and then when you finally get through the village and get on the road up to the the castle wall, I had a little figure of Red Skull, so every time they fought and they killed a German unit, you would roll and then they would come back. They would come back to life. And so, you had to either have a flamethrower guy or whatever. And then on turn 3, special reinforcements came in. And the special reinforcement was Captain America with the shield, right? Him and Bucky, but it was the one from the HeroClix that just debased it.
Yeah.
From the HeroClix from the movie where he had the brown jacket and the helmet with the star on it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I repainted that and put that in the game, and that was one of the funnest games we had because people thought they were going to be, I'm going to line up all my soldiers and we're going to fight these. Fight the Germans, and they're probably in the village, and then they're going to be unfolded. But then when I put the teddy bear fur down to represent the fog, then every time they went to patrol some area, they rolled, and that patrol just disappeared in the fog. We don't know where they went,
Yep.
And so that surprise, because nobody had ever played that scenario before, but the surprise that people had of, wow, this is different and this is fun. And then the reinforcement they thought was going to be a tank because I had a tank out on the thing. And then no, it became out of the half track comes Captain America with his shield, and he has to go fight the Red Skull, and they have your hero units. But using the guard system, you can do crazy stuff like that. And I think that the fun of Weird War gaming is having that narrative gameplay, is being able to tell a story in that time frame.
I have to admit that the Weird War gaming is expanding. I mean, we're seeing you've got your World War I. There's plenty of World War II out there. There's a Vietnam Weird War that came. I'm not sure if it's done or if it came out yet. There's we've seen some colonial. People are using American Civil War or American War of Independence.
Right.
Having zombies in it or whatever. There's miniatures makers. I just saw recently. I can't remember who it was, but one of the miniature makers is making I think it's 100-year war zombies.
Yeah, is that from Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter and all
well,
that?
Yeah. They've got that. Yeah, I think that's one of them. And there's there's a Weird War Civil War.
Yeah. So you can have so opening up people's imaginations, unchaining them from the marketing system, I think allows people to play in the genre and era that they like, but then just spice it up.
Yeah.
You can just spice it up. And I think there's a lot to be said for the creativity of gamers to be able to free them to just go nuts with it, and I'm really, really enjoying the fact that people are coming out and really, even though they're being trained at these game stores to play a certain way, because I understand the financial side of it, but also I think it also helps stores because now you could go over and grab some Reaper miniatures, right?
Exactly.
And mix them in.
You can cross that line and you can play all sorts of stuff.
Throw it on the table and go for it. And I know one of the best dungeon crawls that I did in a long time was a homebrew variation of Zombicide, where it was each of the characters were superheroes, and then the zombies were like Hydra.
Oh, that's cool.
AIM, so the guys got 10 AIM guys come out. Oh, and then a Hulk, a Mandroid comes out. So they had it was so cool. So you just replaced the zombies, the runners, and the fatties with Hydra, AIM, Mandroids, and all on up. And I think that was one of the funnest games. And again, it was just rebased HeroClix because you can get them by the pound.
You can now. You sure can.
Yeah, and because they come out so much, and so I look at that, and I look at that freeing aspect of the variety of games you can play. So when we talk about gaming, I mean, at the top you have gaming as a general concept, right? Then you break it down into video gaming versus tabletop gaming, And then you go down that ladder, and tabletop gaming is board games and card games. And under board games, you have miniatures board games. And under miniature board games, you have miniatures gaming. And, you know, and in either of those, you could have card war gaming or board war gaming. And then you have role-playing gaming, right? So under wargaming is Weird War, which is even further down further down that ladder. So it's a smaller subset. But I think, to your point, that it's growing because more people are seeing the benefit of it. And I think, as you being a champion of this genre and being a voice and being a hobby hero for it, I think allows people a place to really gather their thoughts, gather resources like our company, like Gaddis Gaming, and be able to say, well, here's a starting point, then I can move forward from this and then really explore it in a safe way and on a budget, because nobody says you have to buy everything on day one.
Exactly.
You know, I see those hobby halls where guys are like getting GW stuff and it's like $1,000 box that they're opening. You know, I'm like, that's $1,000 worth of models. Who has the type of money for that?
I've been gaming over for 30 years. I have never in my life been able to throw down $1,000 for a game, ever.
Of anything, of
Nothing,
any type,
ever.
Yeah,
and to think that people are doing that, I mean, that's great. I mean, if you have that kind of income, but I mean, I'm an average Joe. You know, I'm a family man. I'm a single dad, and you know, so you know, everything counts. Every dime counts. And if I've got, you know, a superhero, you know, mini, why not use it? Why not use it? There's no reason not to use it just because it's not in the official rule book or whatever. So I don't care.
Yeah.
Just give me
and I think 2020 points
system.
that out. Yeah, like 2020 points out that people need to be financially smart. I mean, there's some people, like I have a friend that he's an engineer. He makes $250,000 a year. He's single, no kids. So he can splurge on whatever he wants. He has no responsibilities except for himself, right? So great. But he's not the average guy. You know, with Weird War Gaming, it allows the average person to get in at a comfortable level, you know. And usually when I go to play, I bring two armies. So if somebody doesn't have an army to play and I can introduce them to them, great, here we go. We spend an hour, you got a flavor for it. If you want to do something with it, you know, there's your game store, go nuts.
Well, you know, we have all these videos on YouTube about, you know, what they call them, the shame piles. I mean, we used to call them the lead piles, but they call them shame piles now. You know, they got enough toys that they'll never finish building. But you know what? And then, like, you know, the system continues on, and some of that stuff is outdated and can't be used anymore. Not Weird War, baby. You can use anything at any time for anything. So, like with systems like yours, you give the mechanics to the people to let them play whatever they want. So if they, you know, if they finally get in that shame pile, they finally get to those plastic squats, you finally get to, you can actually use them. It doesn't have to be Warhammer. It could be, you know,
anything,
whatever.
Yeah.
You're in, you know, you're up in Norway. The Germans are in Norway fighting the Norwegians, and they stumble across a bunch of dwarfs. Whoa.
Yeah, they were drilling for a submarine base and came across some door. Oh yeah, I mean, you can let your imagination run wild, and that's one of the beauties of the genre. And I really appreciate you championing it, and I really appreciate you being out there and giving people a safe harbor where they're not, like, you know, belittled or ridiculed because they don't have these deep pockets to go into, you know, a lot of the other gaming communities, you know, and also just being hobby positive. I mean, everything that you do is always positive about what we're doing as gamers, you know.
And I have to give you credit because you're providing some product that no one else makes. That damn ball tank is excellent, man. It's great. So Lee here makes an incredible ball tank, okay? And it comes with, like, enough weapons that you can make it into a 40K vehicle. You can make it into a World War I vehicle. You can make it into a World War II vehicle. You can make whatever the hell you want with it. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I call, you know, a gamer making games, because you don't want to have to buy the same thing over and over or buy magnets and, like, or whatever. You are providing all these options to allow these people bigger and broader gaming ideas. Yeah. You're not keeping them down. You're opening up the idea with all these, you know, all these options they have, and that's great. And it's a badass thing.
Yeah, thank you. And so we're doing. I mean, so we got a Kickstarter going right now for our World War II uh, uh, game, which is called Empire's Fall, and that was in honor of my grandfather who fought in World War II, and I dedicated to the 761st Tank Battalion, the original Black Panthers, because there's never been a game dedicated to them. And I think with their service record and the valor and honor that they fought on the front lines and what they had to put up with, I think that we should have had a game by now to honor them. Just like when I made Shadow of the Town, our World War I game, it was to honor the Harlem Hellfighters, because in 100 years there had never been a game dedicated to the Harlem Hellfighters, which I think is a travesty. So I thought, well, this is something as a company we could do something about. So with Empire Falls, I said, look, if you want, we have a full range, 2,000 historical miniatures. If you want to play straight historical, no problem. Here are the rules. Here are the miniatures. Go have fun. But if you want to do it Weird War, if you want to add some hot sauce to it, we can do that too. And so all the miniatures, the ball tank was just one small part of a long range of miniatures that we're doing of what if tanks. Like, what if the war had continued on? If Hitler wasn't in charge, right? What if in our world, Prince Wilhelm becomes King Wilhelm III with Princess Louise Victoria marrying the king of Italy, and they form the Holy Roman Empire. Right. So that becomes the catalyst in Germany for World War II to jump off, because right to the east of them is the godless Soviet Union.
That's right. The commies.
Right. So that war still jumps off, Barbarossa, but the war continues on longer because Hitler's not there making incompetent decisions. The generals are there, right, doing it. And so the war drags on. More weapons are allowed to come onto the field. And then we put on our Weird War twist, right? Because in 1880, the Martian invasion happened, and then we were reverse engineering all of those weapons, the death rays and the Tesla coils and the anti-levitation, anti-gravity devices that were part of the Martian invasion. And so those all get thrown into the mix. And so you can have traditional versions of those vehicles, and you can have the Weird War versions of those vehicles. That's awesome. And so the war grinds on, right? And so all the things that came in late in 1945 that didn't see that much action in our game actually sees actions and then gets expanded upon. So that gives people a much longer range to play in. We're going with a whole line of 4-legged and 2-legged walkers that we're going to do. I know Dust does a ton of them that I've been using as proxies in my game, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit and add just a little bit more flavor, because as a designer, I mean, you can't stop me.
No, that's great.
You can't stop me from drawing stuff, right? And I know there's a lot of stuff to build on from other manufacturers that have come before me, that have tried this before me. But, we're just doing our heads at it, throwing our hat into the ring, and hopefully people will appreciate it. Hopefully people will support us on the Empire Falls Kickstarter. And, because we have dice, we have tokens. I mean, even if you just get a T-shirt, I mean, that's,
yeah, so you guys,
a price point for everybody,
you guys check that out. I'm going to put a link down here. Okay. You guys check. We got a couple more days, right? We're almost there, right?
Yeah. We got 3 more days, and then we're only I think $600 away from being fully funded. And then once we get fully funded, then it's all the unlocks. Then you can see the battle suits that we're making. Then you can see we have at least 3 years worth of Weird War tanks lined up in production, right? So not only do we have the M6 heavy tank for the Americans, we have the P40 for the Italians. We have all the E-series tanks for the Germans. So you want the E75, you want the E10, you want the E100. The only thing that we're not going to make is the Rat, because that would just be the size of a kitchen table.
Yeah, it's like it would have to be like a dungeon crawl in the Rat tank.
Inside the vehicle. Yeah.
Right.
It would have to be a mat.
That's a great idea. Anybody who wants to make a board game of the infiltrating of the Rat.
Shh, that's $1 million idea, man.
That's it, man. I'm telling you.
Write that down. Hold on.
Like,
Attack the Rat.
Okay. There you go. Attack the Rat. I mean, that thing's got to have a crew of 20 at least.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Then you get like.
You're talking about 3 guys just for the 6 anti-aircraft guns that are on it.
Yeah.
So
it's just insanity. I love it. See, the Germans
use cannons for its main guns.
Those
right?
Germans were making Weird War back in the day.
Yeah.
Crazy.
To
But yeah,
appease.
so Empire Falls. Look, I'm so excited to hear about. I want to see the evolution of how this works out with the Holy Roman Empire. Because listen, guys, I'm a student of history, and I know a lot of you guys are too. And I mean, we're talking Nat's wing. I mean, it's almost like that butterfly effect. Like
Yeah.
if certain things went a certain way,
Hitler
dude,
never would have rose to power.
exactly.
Yeah. Get no Waffen
If
SS.
there was some other force at work in pre-Nazi Germany that was powerful, that would unite the people, that wasn't
Yeah.
Nazis, like a royalty, dude, they would have
Yeah, the
easily
monarchy. Yeah.
swung in that direction too.
Yeah.
Just for that better life. So it's not
Yeah,
the
you think about
concept.
Bismarck.
Yeah, the concept of Nazis being absent of World War II is not hard to fathom, and it being replaced by some other kind of force.
Yeah, and the Nazis were not inevitable. I mean,
No.
there was a lot of things that could have derailed them, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and if you talk about reinstalling the monarchy under the Weimar Republic, it would be analogous to England, where you have the Queen being the figurehead, and then the government being run by Parliament. And
Yeah.
so, in our world, the government is being run by the Republic, but the forces that are at work behind the scenes to keep the monarchy in place, and then the partnering between the monarchy and then fascism in Italy, which then takes hold in Germany and Austria, and then they gobble up Lithuania, they gobble up Luxembourg, Hungary, Austria, they gobble up all of those in that Holy Roman Empire, because they see it as a force against the godlessness of
Yeah.
Soviet communism, right? And that's when the conflicts break off and jump off. And then when they want to annex Belgium, and you still get the Sudetenland, you still get all that Czechoslovakia, you still get all of those things that happen because of them trying to gain more power in the region. Because like all empires, you have to gain more territory.
They're reestablishing those royal lines. So when you
Right.
go north up to Norway and Sweden and all that, you have royal families up there. Why
Still
wouldn't
there.
they want a larger power? Because they're doing, they're having to kind of lessen their power now. But all of a sudden, you've got a whole empire resurging. Then you have that royalty starts to come back into the play into the world.
Right.
Instead of like the democracies, it becomes like
right.
royalties, and we're kind of we're falling back toward the days of when the 100 Years' War, when you're fighting each other because your baron stubbed his toe on whatever.
How dare you insult me, sir? Raise an army, we will go to war.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we're simplifying it, but it didn't take much for royals to just rise up and fight each other, and the people were just in the meat grinder.
Yeah, and there's so many books that explore this, and so for us, it's just a way to get our toe wet. It's a way to expand our range of miniatures. It's literally just a way for me to put all the toys that I wanted and can't get on the table. It's just an excuse, and I hope that other people will enjoy it too. So so with that, and with us not being able to go to conventions and do our revenue. Yeah. That we normally would have, because the convention is going to be shut down until this time next year. The Kickstarter is just a way for us to literally just stay afloat and get new product out to people that we've had in the pipeline that should have been released in April. But because we weren't allowed to do Historicon or Adepticon or Origins or any of the other conventions, the Kickstarter crowdfunding is the only way we can get the revenue to do our research and development and get products out to you directly at a cheaper cost. Because we don't know how many stores are going to be open after this is all over with, how many retailers are still going to be in business. And we hope everybody can stay alive, and we hope the government steps up and steps in. But until then, we really want to make sure that we get this stuff out to you. We have decal sheets for the tank, so you can customize your tanks any way you want. We have all of our hero figures, not only just the 71st Tank Battalion dismounted tank crew, but we have heavy armored units that are going to be coming out later, or early 2021. We have battle suits, like I said, the 4-legged and the 2-legged walkers. So you can do full armored battalions if you want to go out. We have the custom dice rack. We have the World War II version of our guards rules. Of course, we have a shitload of tanks, if that can be said.
Of course. Shit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's skirmish focused, but you can scale it up as big as you want. I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you and where you feel you want to go with it.
I think you got the mindset. You got the Weird War mindset because you don't want to limit people. Because weirdos, we don't want to be limited. We want to do what we want to do. And
what do you mean I can only bring in 10 miniatures? Screw you.
Keep your 10 minis. I'm gonna just bring this one badass
with
superhero guy
and a machete. Let's go.
Let's go.
Roll it out.
Man, it sounds awesome. I can't wait to. I hope we get this this backed and see this stuff because I'm looking forward to seeing that M6. That looks cool.
Yeah, nobody's done the M6 before. And there's a lot of tanks that people have never done in miniature because there hasn't been a market for it. So we think by creating this market, we can get people, even if people just collect it. Because I have a lot of models that I just bought because I like the look of it. I have no purpose for it. I'd never planned on putting it in a game. I just wanted to build it and collect it, and it sits in my display case, as a project. And and again, if you want to bring your Tiger 2 in, you want to bring your Flak 88 in, you want to be, any miniatures that you already have or that you want to add to collection, the game system allows itself to do that. To your point, we don't limit you. We're not overseers trying to govern how you play. We're saying, look, here's a rule system. You can learn it in 15 minutes. I sent you, the quick how to play reference, and hopefully you guys will do a battle report on it.
We will. We intend to.
Yeah, and we teach it. Usually, it takes about 15 minutes for people to pick up on it. And once you get those mechanics going, you're off to the races because then there's infinite permutations of that basic formula. And it's built on a chess model where we try to improve people's analytical thinking skills. We used it as a learning tool in after-school programs to get kids to work together, to work cooperatively, and also. To think about, I have these amount of resources, I have to achieve these goals. How do I take these resources to achieve that goal? And you can apply that to any era. You're not limited. You're not limited by World War II. But making up the story. So it was, you have your English and writing as part of it. You have your creativity, art part of it, and then you have your strategic thinking, wargaming part of it. So all of those as a whole hobby aspect, painting the miniatures. Now you have your hand-eye coordination skills, in there. And I know for a lot of our older gamers and people who have, shaky hands or eyesight aren't that good, we offer a full painting service. You can get a fully painted army from us, at a lot cheaper than some of these other services offer. But we hire veterans who have PTSD that can't be out in the regular workforce.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and they can stay at home and they can paint, and so we keep them employed that way. We give them in Detroit we call it a side hustle. We give them a side hustle where they can make some money, and do things that they want to do outside of whatever the government is giving them, and that's our way of giving back to our veterans community. Because nothing, giving money is one thing, but then earning it gives you another sense of satisfaction. And we want to give people that sense of self-worth and the fact that they're still appreciated and can contribute to the larger society.
That's great.
So that's just one of the things that we can do. And again, you can use our miniature. I mean, we're not saying you have to use our miniature only for guard. You can use our miniatures as a bolt action. You can use it in chain of command. You can use it in battle group. However you want to use them. I mean, they're there for you. But we offer this as a stepping off point for people who just want to get their feet wet and collect a new range of miniatures, and be able to play a game that's not 300 squad leader. Can I say squad leader?
Of course, you say anything you want.
Like 300 pages, really?
Oh man, really? I tell you, if
back in the day.
I played squad leader, advanced squad leader, and squad leader. Oh yeah,
the reference playing squad leader.
When you're referenced, you got like 20 reference pages. That's not the rules. Then you got like 800. It's great. Right? It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it.
Right. So for us, we wanted to streamline it, make it accessible to people for the modern age.
It's true.
Because I grew up playing with guys who started gaming in the 70s, so they were all about crunchy rules. Hex and counter gaming.
Things have changed.
Yeah, but when I had my lunch money, when I had my milk money, I went and bought Ogre. Remember the pocket games where they came in the Ziploc bags? I bought what is it? Starfire, Ogre. All those types of games. Something I could keep in
Steve
my
Jackson's
pocket and
first
take
stuff, right? That was his first
Yeah.
kind of stuff, his early stuff.
Yeah, early stuff. Yeah. So for me, that was like when I was able to buy it because I could bring it over to a friend's house, in my backpack and just whip it out and play it. But when I went to the game store, the hobby store, people were Squad Leader, all kind of just crazy big hex encounter games,
I think,
and they were, like you said, they were really big, heavy rule books.
I think the Weird War concept is it's guerrilla gaming. It's like you play with what you want and what you got. You don't have to follow any codexes. You don't have to follow. You get that rule system that you love, and you just game. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, if I was playing this back when I was a kid, oh man, we used to meet up every weekend, and shit, I would show up with like something new. It's like, hey guys, I got my army, but check this out. Boop, I got a ball tank, mothers. And they're like, what? Because you should probably, man. Because I remember back in the day, we would just, we would play all the time. This was before girls.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Girls.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My gaming ended the minute a girl took interest in me when I was like 14 or 15. Then I was like, I'm sorry guys, got to go to the mall.
I lucked out that when the girls that I was interested in were interested in the toys too. So I was always a geek. So whatever.
Yeah,
you guys, all you new guys, all you new gamers, you guys got paid, brother. Me and Lee, when we were geeking out in the 80s and stuff, no, you weren't pal. The people didn't like you because you liked Captain America or that you war gamed. You were ridiculed. Right. So you guys have ascended to a whole new world. It's acceptable, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't wear my Ogre T-shirt to school.
Damn right.
That wasn't happening.
No. But but you did anyway, and you took slack for it because you're a geek and you love it.
Yeah, I'm a geek. I'm sorry. This is who I am. Love me.
Never be afraid to be a gamer ever. You guys don't have to now. It's so acceptable now.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the beauty of this is that you can introduce people to it, and the table becomes the level playing field, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have a quick reflexes to play the video game. Maybe I'm not really big where I can play sports. But if I bring my army to the table, or maybe I'm just really good at making terrain. Maybe I'm a crafting person, and I can bring really good terrain to the game, and then watch two, because there's plenty of games where I haven't played. I just watch two people play, but I set the entire table. I brought all the terrain. They brought their miniatures, and we've done that. So, and we've had events where we've just gone over people's houses to build stuff that we've needed. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Oh, let's get together. Well, you just got a new printer. Let's take that foam, that injection molded foam, and we'll cut that up, and that'll be our bunker. And then still we can use that for a spaceport. Hey, your mom, remember those stockings used to come in the eggshell?
Yeah.
Legs, right? LEGG, I think.
The egg, yeah.
And we used to use those for like we made these like Space 1999 like habitable domes, and
the domes,
and then put stickers on. Yeah, and so we connected those to make a micro armor moon base that we had to raid. So there's all kind of ways that you can get into the hobby to fit you, because like I said, we as a company, we're a whole hobby company, and we want to make sure that people get the most out of it. And even with our going forward, even when you get the 2-player starter set for Empire's Falls, inside of it you get all the dice, all the tokens, all the miniatures you need for 2 armies. So 2 people can really go in on one 2-player starter set and then flesh out whatever they want on add-ons, right? But in that, as we create more stuff, we'll upload stat cards for it, so you'll always have a reference card to play in the guard system, and that'll be for free. So you can go out and make your own, but we'll have official reference cards for all the different units. And one of my friends already, and I can't, should I say this or not? I don't know. Should I let that out of the bag? Okay, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that one. I'm not going to let it out of the bag. But the stat cards, we'll have stat cards for literally everything out there. So we'll show you, like, if you have a question like, well, I have this miniature, what would the stats be for it in guards? We will convert it over, because we have people dedicated. That's all they're doing, is converting things over into the stat cards, and then we'll upload it for you to the Empire Falls Facebook group, and then you can download it and use it at your pleasure, or share it with friends, and then you can work. Oh, well, do you think this is a good stat? Do you think this is a good stat? Well, go over to Easy Army Builder and put your own stats in, and tweak it how you want it. And so, to your point, free range gaming.
That's
free
it.
Range gaming, we just give you the tools, and you can go out and go crazy with it. And I think that's one of the really beautiful aspects of what we're doing. One of the beautiful aspects of Weird War Gaming, and the mindset around it from the beginning is, don't restrict yourself, don't limit yourself. Oh, well, I got to go buy that $70 codex, and then I got to go buy the $30 index, and then I got to go buy the $50 what is it, whatever the frequently asked, whatever the corrections to the rules are.
FAQ stuff,
yeah, the FAQ stuff. Then I got to go buy that, and then I'm like, no, you don't have to do any of that. It's
how you want to play.
You play how you want to play,
right.
and I think that that's one of the philosophies. I mean, we started our besides the Women in Windsor Wargaming group in Windsor, Canada, right across from Detroit, right across the river. It's just Gaddis gamers. We go to the different game stores and we play. That we frequent, because some days, like, a store will be full up with a Magic tournament. We can't play there, so we have to go to another store. So we decide, online, well, where we're going to meet up and play at. Well, we're going to go to this store and play. Okay, so and that's our Gaddis gamer philosophy is sit down, enjoy the game, have a good time. And I think the Weird War community really embraces that, and I'm really happy to be a part of it, and I'm happy to be able to contribute, because for many years it's given me so much fun and so much enjoyment. And now I'm happy to be able to give back. And like I said, thank you so much for being a champion on the gamers side of it, and being hobby positive in the nerd community, because we really need that.
Definitely,
so many people out there not understanding
I truly believe
about having fun.
Yeah, I truly believe that despite the COVID, this was the golden age of gaming, because you have a lot of companies like yourself out there providing product that just don't get any exposure. And there's no reason why they shouldn't. And I understand that a lot of these companies can't give product that's designed to sit on store shelves and whatnot. And I get that. But we have conventions. We have, in Europe, the club is a big thing. There's so much product out there. There's so many producers. There's so many publishers.
Would catch on here in America?
Yeah. No, what now? I'm sorry?
Do you think the club idea, like how they have the gaming club where everybody gets together like that? Or is America too independent?
I don't know. I think I've never been in a gaming club. I mean, maybe like if you were in school or something, they had clubs in school. But me personally, I've never known of a club in America. I know that they're out there, but in my personal experience, I've never seen a gaming club that it's kind of like the British format. Never seen it. Never even heard of one. Now I know that you got the guys from the Little Wars, and they got that's kind of a European fashioned gaming club. Yeah, but I've never seen that in my day-to-day walking around, in the back alleys of the gaming world. Just haven't. So, and in my personal experience, it was buddies, just friends that would get together at the dinner table and just roll dice and have a good time and laugh and drink 100 sodas and eat a pizza and piss off mom because we've been playing for 8 hours at her dinner table, and it was like that. And then
it's a very different cultural structure.
It is, and I think a lot of and not in you won't get this in Weird War, because there's no simulation in Weird War, because Weird War is weird. There's no it's not real. So you're not going to have this simulated, wargaming, because it doesn't exist, because walkers weren't around, or, zombies weren't around. So you play it off the cuff and how you want to play it. It's not a simulator. So like if you're redoing, the Battle of the Bulge, it's a simulation. There's only certain units that were there and when and where. But in Weird War, you can do whatever you want. So I think it's more fun. I think people joke and they laugh, and I think they're like, what? There's more surprises, because you don't know what to expect. You don't. And if you get a system that allows you to do whatever you want to do, you just don't know what you're going to come across. And that is fun. So you got to think about every aspect. Would you ever think of like, jetpack troopers? And you come to hey, come to the Battle of the Bulge game. Let's have a Battle of the Bulge game. Okay. So you playing the Americans, and you got a bunch of infantry, and you're trying to do
Eagles, jetpack troopers.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's like Nazi parrot or jetpack guys. You're like, what the hell? And then but we got something up our sleeve, and then like a tank drills out of the ground and eat that Nazi. So you can do whatever the hell you want. That's what makes Weird War so great, is the weird. So embrace that weirdness and go crazy. Buy a bunch of ball tanks. Fight the Holy Roman Empire. It's fantastic. Get those Tesla guns going. That's what it's about. It's fun stuff.
Put it better than that. I think that you have summed it up quite nicely. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to do this. It was a
pleasure, Lee.
Yeah, and Empire Falls is available to everybody, but it's just a starting point. This is just the start of the conversation. I'm sure there'll be a lot more things for us to talk about in the near future.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and like I said, thank you so much for taking time out and spending the time with me and letting me showcase a little mom and pop shop of us working out of our basement, getting it out to people.
Gaddis Gaming is always a pleasure to come to Weird War, and you're a weirdo like me, so you keep it up. You just keep making that awesome stuff, and we'll be there. We'll be, because it's weird. If it's weird, we're there.
We're there. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
All right, buddy. Bye.